two questions from that.
Uh-huh.
And one is, it seems to me what you're saying, that art is more than a self-expression. It is art, it is a discerning, hopefully, understanding of truth. And if that is true, then shouldn't it be that Christians who are artists should be greater artists than non-Christians? And if that is true, then why is it that Christian art in modern times has gotten to be a little, it has a bad rep, let's just say. And then I'll have you answer that, and then I'll ask my second question based on some of the things you're saying.
Okay, the answer to the first part of your first question, I think, is that just because someone is a Christian doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a greater artist than somebody who isn't a Christian and has greater technical proficiency in the discipline, whatever the discipline
So the
is.
craft itself.
Right. I mean, I'm a devoted Christian, you're a devoted Christian, but you and I could study ballet until we were blue in the face. We'd never be as good as Baryshnikov, who may be a Christian, I don't know.
Right.
But choose somebody that's not.
Right.
Because there is a gift from God to those individuals, whether they ever acknowledge that it comes from God or not. And if they are disciplined and they exercise their giftedness, I think Laurence Olivier is a good example. Mr. Olivier, I revere the man's talent. I mean, he had a great gift from God. As far as I know, he did not acknowledge our Savior, but he had such an ability to translate characters with truth onto film and the stage that I can learn from him. Just because he is not a Christian, and I think most people who are highly successful, most of them, I think, are not believers. But that doesn't mean that I throw the baby out with the bathwater. I can learn from them and apply and use them as models in terms of their discipline, their stagecraft, their devotion to hard work, because it is. I mean, once you become a Christian, it isn't. I mean, we both know it's not all of a sudden an easy path in our disciplines. We still have to work hard in order to show ourselves improved. And I think that once the Christian decides that he or she is going to devote himself or herself to the discipline, then it's a combination of God's initial blessing from birth, what he has wired into our essential makeup, and perhaps combining that with a fruit of the Spirit. I'm not sure that we have an exhaustive encyclopedic listing of all of the fruit of the Spirit in the 9, in the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That may be tip of the iceberg stuff. I'm not sure.
Right.
Well, certainly it's a starting point, and certainly we could relate most of the natural gifts as complements to one or more of the gifts of the Spirit. I think one of the reasons that we are, to hit your point B of first question, one of the reasons that we are disregarded or shuffled off to the side is that's a great question, and it has many facets to it. One is because a lot of Christian artists don't exercise the discipline that is required to do great art. They can use, there are as many excuses as there are people to exercise them. I don't have enough time. I'm too busy doing ministry. It's good enough for the church, which really is just horrifically bad. I don't get paid. That's another problem. Is we lack patrons to support the artists and encourage them to do, because it is hard to devote yourself to your craft while you're driving a bus full of screaming 8th graders. So we want to encourage the artistic community to devote themselves to the same kind of disciplines that the world does. The world has the motivation of money. Christian has the motivation of the glory of God. Which one should be the greater motivation? we should be producing the world's greatest art, because we have in us as Christians the one who called the worlds into existence.
Right.
The beauty of this universe, the one who spoke a word.
The greatest artist.
The greatest artist ever, that ever will be, resides within us. And if we can, to some extent, get rid of all the blockages that we keep in place to releasing our selfish hold on our ambition or our pride, our ego, or whatever it is that gets in the way of God working through us to produce what he regards as beautiful, then which corresponds to truth,
Yeah.
then we would be greater artists. But that doesn't absolve us of the responsibility to continue to work on that brushstroke or on that dance move or on that the phrasing that we want to use to express a character. Tone of voice. I mean, there's so many aspects to the
Right.
disciplines that we must pursue with diligence and ask God's blessing on it. I have seen the Lord time and time again take what would be an inferior production, an inferior attempt certainly from the world's point of view and from my point of view. I mean, just technically it wasn't there. And use that to bless people. But I don't want to use that as an excuse for
It's
saying,
okay then.
God can take Drek and use it to bless people. Well, yeah, he can talk through a donkey too. But I'm not going to present a donkey every time.
Right.
I want to present something that is as technically beautiful as I am capable of producing under the control of his Spirit to the glory of our Savior.